Great news out of Anthropic. If you're not using Anthropic's Claude, folks, you have to, but especially now more than ever. They are announcing new models for one thing, but the thing that caught everybody's attention, the stuff that's going viral on LinkedIn and elsewhere, is all about what they call computer use. Worst name, come on, Anthropic, worst like computer use, but where it grabs your computer, it starts scrolling for you, making calendar invites for you. It takes over your computer. I don't even know where to begin on this. So, Jaeden, where do you want to start with all the huge news out of Anthropic?
Okay, yeah. So, I mean, this is crazy. The first thing I wanted to talk about, though, and this is kind of like the hidden thing, everyone's like so obsessed with this computer use, which is absolutely insane, that I think sometimes we forget the fact that they also released some updates to Claude 3.5 Sonnet, and it is significantly better. It's doing really well in the benchmarks compared to GPT or Gemini. So I always like this because, right now we're not seeing like any of these big models come out with just like an absolutely insane update that crushes everybody else, kind of like ChatGPT was doing at the beginning. But we are seeing like these little edges where, okay, now it's up to 65% over GPT-4o at 53%. And I know that, you notice they don't do GPT-01 preview or whatever, but like,
Right.
we'll give them some credit. They're doing a great job. So I think this is really exciting, just these advancements. Now, taking all of these and letting them control your computer seems crazy, but it's really, really interesting. I recently posted on LinkedIn, and you got to go check out Conor's LinkedIn post because he's been posting, and he kind of did a super edit of this that went super viral. I just wanted to show you a quick demo that they showed off where essentially they asked it to help them plan a vacation. So they said they gave it a prompt. They said, my friend is coming to San Francisco. I want to watch the sunrise with him at the Golden Gate Bridge tomorrow. He'll be coming from Pacific Heights. Could you find us a great spot, check the drive time, the sunrise time, then set up a calendar event that gives us enough time to get there? So what I think is interesting is we're getting to a new place. I think, Conor, you've been saying for a long time that there's no such thing as like prompt engineering isn't a thing. It's not very important. And I agree with you because people used to like try to figure out like the exact word to use. You just need to give something clear directions and they're going to be able to execute. I feel like we're moving away from quote unquote prompt engineering and just being a good manager or a good direction giver. That's
Yeah,
what you
totally
do.
agree. Totally agree.
And so I think this is so fascinating, though, because you're giving this multiple steps. You're like, check the drive time, set up a calendar, find us a great spot to look at this thing. I don't know, like, what are your thoughts on? And then, anyways, it goes in and does this, and I'll show you some more. But I want to get your take on this, Conor, on like this grabbing your computer. Would you use this? Is this interesting to you? What's the level of creepy versus useful?
Yeah, I love it. I mean, I've heard that a lot, the creepy user. By the way, if you're only listening to us, guys, we have a YouTube channel now, and Jaeden is running through all this as we speak. So jump online and find our YouTube channel as well. So, I love this question of whether we think it's creepy or not, because in a way, it sort of goes to all technology. I think a lot of technology would have been creepy at one point and now is just totally normal. And I think whether or not we think this is creepy, this is just the future of technology. So you can resist it if you want. But I do think that this is those sounds coming in are Jaeden running through the Claude video or demo rather. But what I like about it is that Claude comes out. And by the way, I love that it was Claude coming out with this because Claude or Anthropic tends to be known as the safety brand over OpenAI. And if OpenAI
Mhm.
had released this first, everybody would have freaked out. But because because Anthropic released it first, everybody's like, okay, well, let's actually investigate
We're
this.
good.
Also, it's not
Yeah.
yeah, we're good. It's not available to everybody. It's just available to developers. And they're like, look, we're figuring this out. So it's not useful yet, right? It's glitchy and all that kind of stuff. And they gave a demo, obviously that worked. But people are reporting that, you're kind of getting some use out of it. So it's more just a sort of a testing phase and all that sort of stuff. But the fact that this does, I think, a little bit back to doing what OpenAI's, what were those things that OpenAI had or ChatGPT had for a while where you could connect to Kayak or you connect to Turo or you could connect
Yeah.
to plugins. Thank you. Like the plugins, it was kind of like that. It was sort of this idea that you could put into ChatGPT, hey, I'm going to call in the Kayak one and the hotels.com one, and then just do this all for me. Now, it wouldn't make it for you, But what it
Hmm.
would do is sort of give you a sense of like what a holistic trip planning could be. So I love
Hmm.
that part of what this is doing, which is it just takes over your computer. You can watch, you can stop at any time, you can intervene, all that kind of stuff. Some of the demos were really funny. There was a moment where it was doing some task, and then Claude seemed to just pause in the middle and browse pictures of Yellowstone, which everybody just got a huge kick out of, which was absolutely amazing. But I think the what this does is, for me anyway, it showed that AI agents are actually closer than what I thought. They're not useful yet, but when we talk about agents, it's closer than we thought.
Yeah. So the things I want to bring up, number one is how this works. Number two, you mentioned developers. They've released an API for this. This is really big. That means that developers can literally start building this into software and technology today. So we're going to start seeing this integrated into things. And agents is essentially where this all goes. How it works, though, I think it's interesting. It pulls up a side panel beside. And while it's taking over your computer and doing stuff, it's outlining everything that's happening on the side.
Yeah, that's
To
cool.
the point where it's like, move, and essentially how they say this thing works is it takes a screenshot of what's on your screen. It counts how many pixels, right, or width, and height,
Height and width, yeah.
and width, whatever, and it knows exactly where to click on buttons for things. So then it will do the click, it'll take another screenshot, then it will determine where to do it. So this makes a ton of sense, because these models can look at pictures. We've been able to do this for a while. So now they're just counting the pixels in the picture and deciding exactly where to click and type stuff. So that's interesting, but all of this is outlined on the side where it gives you the exact coordinates that it clicked on, exactly what it did, what it typed into the search bar. So in the Golden Gate Bridge example, it says like it goes to Google and it searches best places to watch the sunrise over the Golden Gate Bridge. It goes and looks at a blog where someone says that Spencer Battery is the best place. It goes and checks the directions to between these two different locations and how far that is exactly. It goes and asks exactly what time sunrise is at on Google. Google gives it. It's interesting because it's like integrating with other software, like it's integrating with Google, it's using Google. And in the past, we had companies like Google. Essentially, you would have companies like Google and others that didn't always want to play together, right? Like Google
Right,
is
right.
technically competing their Gemini product with Anthropic. So if they wanted to, maybe they could be a real jerk and be like, hey, you guys can't use our API to use our Google. But with this current tool from Anthropic, you don't need an API. Nobody can ban you from using this because it's the user's computer. It's as if the user was
Wild,
clicking on Google himself and
wild.
doing it. So this is no one's talking about the fact this is a major get around from having to use APIs or build an API integrations. And the other thing is there was already tools that had sort of get around. So Perplexity was accused of this sometimes, but other tools as well, where essentially like you'd set an automation. So when a user did something on your site, it was secretly going to this other person's site and clicking on the right thing. Now, what could happen in those cases, though, if you didn't have an official API from the software that you're integrating with, these bootlegged versions could break because if the software that you're using changes their UI or they change their page structure, your software that was kind of hard coded to know how to do things on their website
Right.
wouldn't know where to do things. So this is kind of the problem where you really want an official API. This again completely gets rid of that problem. There's nothing you can do to stop people because it's just
Yeah.
like a normal
It's a
person.
computer.
It takes a
Well,
screenshot and does it. So for me,
that's
this
what's
is the
yeah.
ultimate get around that you can't block agents with this tool.
But this is also what's interesting, and again, Jaeden is showing this all on the screen. You start to get your head around like what agents are and how they can work, because I think that this kind of pulls back the curtain on how, in a way, I mean, these are obviously very complicated things, but in a way, the simplicity of it is beautiful, right? So essentially, so what Jaeden is showing on the screen is that, like, let's say it wants to figure out, because you asked it, I want to go at sunrise. So it's like, well, I got to figure out what time sunrise is for my friend Jaeden, right? So it takes a screenshot of your screen. And if you just took that screenshot and you put it into Claude or you put it into ChatGPT or something like that, it would be able to say, well, here's how you would do that. Go to that search bar at the top and type out blah, 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 right? Something like that. So essentially what it's doing is it's taking a screenshot. And then as Jaeden said, it even shows you how many pixels down and across it has to go. And it's like, okay, that's where I find it. And then once it's in there, now it has to do the complicated part, which is, how does it controlling your computer and typing and all that kind of stuff. But it's not like it's going from zero to magic. You know what I mean? Like it's like, oh, right, this is kind of how it would tell me to go about these tasks. It would be like, okay, I see your screen now, open up this and now open up. But the huge leap of it typing is huge. But even if this isn't working right now, this isn't one of these things where, I watch, the video generation and stuff like that, where I'm like, this is awesome, but it's hard to see where the practical application. Guys, this is not for practical application right now. But what it is it tells you exactly where the future is going, how fast it's going. And when you're doing strategic planning or anything like that, this is what you need to start accounting for. It's exactly this kind of thing. Plus, as Jaeden showed you as well, there are new models which were Claude 3.5 Sonnet and Claude 3.5 Haiku, and how much they're beating 4.0 by, which of course 4.0 at this point is a little bit old, but still it just shows that the model behind this is also extremely powerful. So I don't know. It's just more and more evidence that Anthropic is really a true competitor, not just in, oh, this is a better safety model, like this is the Volvo, but don't we really want the Porsche or something like that? This is a model that's doing very, very well with sort of like all the back end tech, but also finding new ways of using user interface. And that's what's exciting to me.
100%. One other thing I wanted to mention that Anthropic just announced today, or yesterday, that's really interesting, is that they can now run and write code. So up until now, all of these AI models, when you ask them to write code, everyone's making these code writing tools. Fantastic, it spits out your code. You'd copy and paste your code. You'd go put it into wherever you're running this and check to see if it works and try to debug it, etc. Now they've embedded right into the model a way for you to actually run the code and be able to actually see what that looks like right inside of Anthropic, which is really, really interesting. There's other tools that you could use. Like you could find essentially sandboxes that you could paste code in and test it and run it. But this is amazing. It's all built in. It's kind of just, they're taking like everything where you would, and I'm noticing this with OpenAI too, with what they did with their Canvas thing. But it's like they take everything that you typically copy and paste and put somewhere else, and they're taking that in-house. So you don't actually have to
right.
the platform as much, which is really interesting. You could just do everything right on the platform. So overall, with this code thing, with this new, with the ability to run these like agents, I'm really, really interested to see Anthropic take off. I mean, it seems like they're beating out OpenAI right now. They got an edge on them. I know a lot of people that use them over OpenAI. So for me, this is really exciting to see that there's not just one kind of king of the castle of AI technology. It seems to be that there's other players here as well. So super, super interested to see how that goes.
I agree. They're doing a great job. And that doesn't even bring up how well they do brand voice and things like that. I think it's great. I do think that, OpenAI will keep on coming back as the big dog, but just guys, if you haven't used Claude, please do yourself a favor. And that puts a wrap on this, guys. We could talk about Claude for a long time, but really just try it out. Just get on there and try it out. And also one other thing, folks, public service announcement. Jaeden has a community of folks over on his website. You have to go check this out. We'll put a link in the bio because more and more people are joining this community. It's super cool. Jaeden gives them exclusive access to some of his inner workings of his brain. People are learning from each other. It's super cool. Go check it out. The link is in the bio, and we will see you next time.